ready, man? Party people!
Hi, and welcome to the podcast today. This, if you have been with me and us, by the way, Alex has not dumped me as a friend. She just keeps getting promoted, and they give her more money and a lot more responsibilities with everything at Neighborhood Properties. So thank you for supporting her and all that she does and being here. If you've been here with us for some time, this might sound like we've copy and pasted it, but I always enjoy having the bird nerd, Nate Koszycki, in here to talk about the biggest week in American birding. I obviously follow the news more closely than many people, and when I see signs out at Metroparks saying, welcome birders, and you can see these almost anywhere. I pass it all the time when I'm on Airport Highway at Swan Creek Metro Park. When you see lots of stories that tens of thousands of people and maybe that many birds will be coming here, and there's a huge injection into the economy as well, I take notice. But I love our discussion every year with Nate. I love his passion for birds, and as you'll hear us talk about, I always like dissecting how he relates with his peers, because it's not a common interest, and I enjoyed hearing him talk about that. I hope you get a little insight to what is now here, both people and birds, with our chat now with Nate. All right. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be back.
Did you? It was a Cardinals hat last year, right?
Cardinals hat last year, yeah. But they played the Tigers, and as a diehard Tigers fan, I couldn't wear that hat this week, so I went with the Orioles.
Nate Koszycki, did I say it right?
Koszycki.
Sorry.
No problem.
Who was your professor that introduced us 3 years and some months ago?
That was Dr. Todd Crail.
He hooked us up 3 years ago. He's like, you got to talk to this student of mine. He knows everything about the biggest week in birding. You're the bird nerd, and I say that lovingly.
Yeah,
and
I accept it.
I'm so glad that you wound up working at the Metroparks. What is your role there?
So I am a park technician level 1 at Glass City, the new one downtown that's got the skating ribbon. It's got the bridge across the river. Love it over there.
What is a level 1 technician?
So essentially what we do is we do anything that makes the park look nice and makes it function.
Okay.
I'm not qualified for a lot of the bigger jobs like concrete yet, but a lot of landscaping, minor carpentry, basic maintenance stuff, just anything that kind of keeps it running and looking nice.
Good. And you've enjoyed it so far?
Love it.
Awesome.
Great crew down there, great bosses, great atmosphere. I love the downtown scene.
It's Friday, May 3rd, right now as we record this. This is the first official day of the biggest week in American birding. As you mentioned, this is the third year you've been here, because this whole thing fascinates me. I had an idea that this was a thing, but then getting to talk to you and being more aware of it, this is a giant deal. Can you talk about what this is and why so many people are coming here?
Yeah, absolutely. So Biggest Week in American Birding is a festival that's run by Black Swamp Bird Observatory. They're stationed out in Oak Harbor, and they realized how significant our area is for bird migration, specifically birds like warblers.
What is a warbler?
Warbler is a small, colorful little bird ranging from 4 to 6.5 inches. There's about 36 different varieties. They come from all across South America. They pass through here or they breed here. They stop over in the habitats along the lake, and then a lot of them proceed north to go continue their species up north in Canada.
Is it only that type of bird, or is it many kinds of birds?
Many kinds, but that's the main attraction. So there's other songbirds like tanagers, orioles, like the hat I'm wearing, vireos. There's just a whole lot. There's a lot to offer, but warblers are the main attraction because there's 36 different kinds of them.
You gave me more detail about this last year, and I found it fascinating, and you just alluded to it. So all these warblers are in South America. Any specific part?
Well, not all of them are in South America. There's some that, at least one or two, stay in the winter. Like the yellow-rumped warbler, we can see them in a few scattered spots around Toledo in the winter. They're still scarce, but they're still here. Some will breed, some will winter down in the southeast U.S., and then others will they'll winter down in Central America, Northern South America, and places throughout South America. So they hit both hemispheres within a year.
They are literally like the snowbirds flying south for the winter, right?
Exactly. Yep, they are the snowbirds.
What do they do that just because they don't function well in cold weather like many humans?
Well, it's all evolutionary. For whatever reason, natural selection selected them to migrate to these warmer climates in the winter. So they're not all birds are as hardy as others. So you're not going to see like a yellow warbler here in the winter, it's not going to do well because a lot of it's food too. The insects that a lot of these birds eat, they're just not out in the winter. Now, a bird like the yellow-rumped warbler, like I just mentioned, that stays here in the winter occasionally, they can survive on berries. So food is a big part of it too.
Then the calendar begins to flip, and the little evolutionary satellite in their head says start flying up north. And if you mentioned it, but you were in more detail last year. They hang out here around the Great Lakes, kind of like a pit stop. They like to mate and eat, right? Is that? I think that's how you described it last year.
Yeah. So here in Northwest Ohio, some of them will stay to breed, but the majority of these 36 warblers and other neotropical migrants, as we call them, they will continue north over the lake. But before they do that, they need to stop at these really specific stopover habitats, or I shouldn't say specific, but deciduous stopover habitats, which are essentially habitats that allow them to feed water up before they cross over the lake, which is a huge boundary for a lot of these birds.
So we're like a pit stop on the turnpike.
Exactly. We're a popular one too.
What are the numbers of people that come here for this area? Actually, people and birds.
People and birds. Well, the bird volume, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's pretty darn significant. But the stats on the people that come is pretty insane. An estimated 90,000 people visit Northwest Ohio each year just for the biggest week in American birding. And a lot of them will come before the festival. A lot of them will come after the festival because migration does continue on after the 10-day festival. And those 90,000 people bring in $40 million to the local economies.
Yeah. Before we got connected and before COVID, what was that 80, 90,000 number like? Was it much smaller, half that, a third of that?
I think things just really picked up after people understood what the festival was about. You think in Northwest Ohio, one of the last things you think of if you're not really aware is birds. But the fact that birds have created such a tight community here in Toledo, that expanded outwards. Word got out, birds got out, and now it's a year-long, it's an annual event that just brings people from all over the world. There's been people from all 50 states, 52 countries, and 6 continents besides Antarctica that have visited.
There is a cost associated to register, correct, with Black Swamp?
There's a registration on their website. Each specific event has a different cost. So there's a lot of trips you can partake on where you go out and look at the birds, and there's also a lot of world-renowned experts that visit and give speeches and talks about their findings in the world and their experiences as a birder and how you can become a better birder too.
But people can do this on their own, correct? And I think Maumee Bay State Park is kind of like home base or the best spot.
Yeah, Maumee Bay State Park is essentially the epicenter for the festival regarding registration. A lot of vendors will spend time in the lobby over there. And then there's other spots throughout Northwest Ohio. This whole area, really, you can't go one place and not have a good time birding. I mean, McGee Marsh, that's the big spot for birding itself. There's the
year-round?
Well, mostly for this time of year.
Okay.
In the winter, a lot of what we have out in the marshes is ducks and other water birds that are here for the winter. But springtime, the McGee Boardwalk, that is the most popular spot. That's not to say it's the most productive, but that's one of the most accessible because we got a boardwalk running right through the prime habitat where these birds will literally be within 3 feet of you.
What attracts those birds to that specific spot more than other places?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily just that spot because there's other spots along the lake that have some really good deciduous trees that attracts insects and attracts the birds so they can refuel. But the McGee Boardwalk is probably the most accessible. A lot of these areas, they're really remote. Black Swamp Bird Observatory runs a banding station miles to the east of the boardwalk at Navarre Marsh, as they call it. And they get a lot of the same things. They get essentially the same thing. It's just they're in more of a remote area that's off limits to the public. But this area at McGee Marsh is open to the public. It's open year-round, but this is the time where a lot of people go.
You mentioned that these birds are within several feet of people. Why is that? Why aren't they frightened other than people being responsible and not being over the top? Why are they willing to get so close when there's essentially something odd in their habitat?
I guess they're always cautious of anybody by them. So you can't just grab a prothonotary warbler that's standing right by you, even if you really want to. They are beautiful birds. But I think a lot of them are just so focused on refueling, and they see these crowds of people They kind of see that they're kind of enclosed in a little bit of a barrier. So for the most part, I think maybe some of it is they understand that, you know, with that many people there, they're not necessarily a predator. And if other birds around them don't really care, you know, they're probably not going to care as much too. Maybe that's not the science of it, but I think that's a pretty good bet.
We're all living creatures, and to be somewhat facetious about it, if you've ever taken a long trip on any turnpike, you make a beeline for the bathroom,
right?
And people will respect that. You hop in line, and everybody's ornery because they've been sitting in the car for hours. So it's a little bit of respect all around.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
All kinds of creatures need to refuel. Now, no mating at those Ohio Turnpike stops, I don't believe.
Right. Right. Well, like I said, some of these warblers will stay to breed. Like specifically at the boardwalk. Yellow warblers, they're everywhere in the summer. Prothonotary warblers, that's a warbler that was typically a southern species that's kind of had a staple up here in northwest Ohio because they love those swampy habitats that the boardwalk has. Other birds like common yellowthroats, they will stay in the marshy areas. American redstarts, they're up there too. But a lot of them will just keep on going. Biggest week in American birding, 3rd through the 12th. What will you be doing during these 10 days or so? So I have a walk tomorrow for the Ohio Young Birders Club, May 4th, which is tomorrow. That's a club that really got me involved in birding in general, and this will be my 9th year guiding this walk, which is pretty insane because I was 15 at the time I started. Now I'm 24, and that's the majority of my involvement this year. A lot of the festival I'll be out on my own, just trying to find as many birds as I can, really soak it all in. But I'll be in the area pretty much the entire 10 days and then some after. So if Kim or Mark or anybody at BSBO needs me, I'll be, you know, a phone call away to help out. When people are coming to parks and you're a part of this, I know you said like young birders, but are older people who might be more experienced, veteran birders who come from wherever they come from, are they kind of astonished by how young you are and how much you know? And to be quite honest, you're a 20-something, just out of college kid, and you love birding, which is probably not a common interest among many of your friends. Do you shock a lot of people? I think it... That's a good question. Young man, you don't know anything about birding, and then you drop the knowledge on them, and the jaws drop, right? I will say a lot of people I meet that are my age, if I see them out or I'm introduced to friends, a lot of... Sometimes what will happen is, for example, I had some friends over a couple weeks ago, and they brought some friends that I had no clue, and my buddy introduced them to me and goes, "This is Nate. He likes birds." And that was so it was like, I guess I kind of have to accept that label because, you know, it's what I do. It's not a very common thing, but it's something that could be common if people just, you know, went outside in their backyards and counted what they saw. I like it. I say this every year with you. I am more acutely aware of the variety of pretty birds that we have in this area, and not hopping to the park. You've been here 3 times now. Behind you, there are constant, not today, but there are constantly cardinals and blue jays and other colorful birds that just plop in here. We have some colorful city birds that cruise through the city of Toledo. Exactly, and that's I think the best way to get started in birding. Right now is a great time to do that too. I think any time of year is, but right now, there's so many things that it can be overwhelming. I mean, you can go to the McGee Boardwalk, and not only are you overwhelmed by the hundreds of people on that boardwalk at the same time, but you can be overwhelmed with all the species that are calling and what's flying right by your face. So I think really starting in your backyard and just familiarizing yourself with what's common, like cardinals, blue jays, orioles in the summer or spring. What does I know I see your hat, and anybody that has not a passing interest in baseball knows Baltimore Orioles, black, orange. What does a real oriole in life the bird look like? Black and orange. Okay. It's funny. I was guiding a tour yesterday with some 5th graders at Toledo Botanical Gardens, and that was one of the things I brought up was if anybody out there is a baseball fan, the Baltimore Orioles baseball team is named exactly after the Baltimore Oriole because that's the actual name of the Oriole itself. So I think that's a really cool tie-in. Is that the Oriole more popular native to that area in Maryland? No, but it is the state bird. Got it. So it's a representation of the state. What's the most common bird in the area? I see in my neighborhood there are more robins than human beings. So I'm sure they're popular. What are other common birds that people will see? More run-of-the-mill birds that might not be so colorful, but you can see a lot of. Sure. when it comes to what's most common, if you look out, if you're in a suburban or urban area, you're going to see house sparrows, those small little sparrows that are going to be waking up at 4 a.m. in your bushes, like we've talked about before.
Bastards! Hate them. And they're getting up earlier this year.
Well, and they do have an environmental impact, too.
You told me that they're an invasive species, right?
They're an invasive species from Europe. They were brought over, and they kind of took a stranglehold on a lot of these urban areas and some countryside areas, too. They were a big reason, house sparrows and European starlings, were a big reason why eastern bluebird populations were really struggling back in times like the 70s and 80s, because those 3 species are cavity nesters.
What does that mean?
Cavity nesters meaning they nest in tree cavities. Mm-hmm. So like woodpecker holes, they'll nest in those. Or bluebird boxes, you'll see starlings and house sparrows using those too. And the invasive species, they're just so aggressive. They'll not only kill the nestlings of bluebirds, but they'll kill the adults too.
How do I run these bastard house sparrows out? Because they're now up like slightly after 4 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
It's been a nice week, so I've been sleeping with my window open, and then I hear those damn birds, and it's 4:13 a.m. and they're chirping like it's Friday night for them.
Yeah, and getting rid of them, it's not. This may not be the best political answer, but there's sparrow traps you can use, and you can either try to relocate, or since it's not a species that's protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, you can essentially euthanize house sparrows.
I'm not going to kill them, but I would like to yell at my window at them.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a baseball round, you can throw it, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I mean, yeah, it can be annoying, and knowing how they affect our local native ecosystems too is also frustrating. But at the same time, birds in general, I think there's a lot of intrinsic value to them. As in, yes, this bird has done a lot, but at the same time, it's a bird, and if you're gonna take care of it, however which way, it's like, well, do it out of respect for nature in general.
Right. To go backwards, when you said you met some friends and they said, "This is Nate, he likes birds." Mm-hmm. Can you read someone's face when they have their reaction, and are they thinking, does this guy like parrots or does he feed pigeons?
Everyone's kind of different. Some people will smile and say, "Oh, that's great," and then just not, just forget about it. But other people will be legitimately interested, because it's really not a common hobby or interest or lifestyle, as in some ways it is for me.
Not for someone your age.
Right. Well, yeah, for someone my age, but it is growing with things like the Ohio Young Birders Club that has multiple chapters throughout the state now. And so it's ever growing, and even if you're not a diehard birder in general, just having a basic appreciation for what's outside in your backyard, or the most extensive wilderness out there that's untouched by humans, I think that's a really good value to have, because then you can pass that on to people, and there's a respect thing that's carried on.
Is there a website, a TikTok page, whatever? Where's a place where somebody might go down a rabbit hole and really get some interest like you have in birding?
I think the best way, like I've said, is going to experience it for yourself. But I think, for example, on TikTok, I'm not on it too much, but I do go down some rabbit holes of a lot of bird banders who will post their videos online. I know there's one in Europe, which is interesting to me because I'm not experienced with European birds, because not too many of those here in Toledo. But yeah, I think the internet, if it's used correctly, is a great segue to get people interested.
Is there a specific website? You talk about like Ohio Young Birders. Is there a site where a lot of people go, other than like a Wikipedia or anything?
Sure.
If not, that's fine.
Well, there's eBird.
Okay.
That's a website where most birders are attuned to it now, and they upload their sightings. They upload what they see in a given time in a given location. And, places like the BSBO website, there's a lot of great information on there about their research, about the birds you find here. A lot of what I'm talking about is found on that website. I mean, I would read that website all the time as a kid. Still do. I mean.
Well, as always, thank you for doing this every year. And if at the very least somebody can take out of this, next time that they're at a Metropark, they'll be a little bit more aware about something else that they can look for, because we do have so many Metroparks. They're all fantastic, but they all offer a little something different.
There's always something different to see at the Metroparks. There's 19 different Metroparks here in Northwest Ohio, and every park has something different, whether it's habitat or just personal experiences, however you want to enjoy it, just get outside, whether it's birds or not, you know.
You've had that hat for a little while, right?
I have. This, I think, 2.5, 3 years, something like that.
If you wear, maybe it depends on where around here, but are people going to give you a hard time, say, you know, are you bandwagon jumper because now they're really good?
Well, the people who haven't known me in the past 2.5 years, I guess, but usually I'm wearing my Tigers hat.
Right.
Tigers are my team. They always will be, but Orioles are a close second. Cardinals are up there too. They're my National League team.
Right, okay.
And I'll admit, even, you know, in my defense, I did start liking them when I was really young, so it's not like I just started.
Right.
It is because they are a bird.
Okay.
I'll admit that.
It wasn't Rutschman and Henderson and everybody
He's on a
else
tear right now.
He really is. He really is. Thanks so much, Nate Koszycki. Thanks. Always good to have you in here for this.
It's been a pleasure.